Alright, so I've got Blender installed on my Mac, and I'm going to go through exactly what I've done to create this logo. The first thing is that you want to go in here to File and go to User Preferences and go to the Input tab, and then we want to set the Emulate 3 button mouse and the Emulate numpad, and you'll see what these have to do with things in a little bit. It's primarily because we've only got a one button or two button mouse, and the emulate numpad is because of some features that you can use to quickly move around in the system. So once you do that, you want to hit the save as default button here, and it'll close that icon or that form. The next thing you want to do is go in here to System Preferences on the Mac, and we want to go to our keyboard, and then right here we've got use all F1 F2 keys as standard function keys. You want to turn that on because some of the things that you want to do are actually using the function key, so it works better if you go ahead and flip that on. And then once you get that done, you can close out of that, and you should be pretty much ready to start rocking and rolling. So what we're going to do is to start with is we're going to go in, and I'm going to show you how to use the environment, and then I'll show you some of the options and things that are here. So there's all kinds of little links over here and plus signs. These actually add panels to the environment. I wouldn't really get into that too much because it'll get you all out of whack, and I haven't figured out how to actually close the panels once you create them. But the file menu up here, the one thing that you need to understand is that when you click these little icons here in the left hand side of the panels, it'll let you pick what that panel is going to be. I have had the file menu, depending on what I was doing, I've had the file menu disappear on me. To get it back, you just need to click on this and go to the info, because that's, you see the little eye that's there on the icon. When you pick info, it'll take you back to your file menu. Some of the things that you have in here that you kind of need to at least know that are here is you've got a default, it basically is your layout that you want to use. You've got this Blender render option over here, which is what I actually used for this because I got better results with it. But there's also a cycles render that I've seen some videos on. I just, in this particular instance, this worked better under Blender render. Now, what we want to do is I'm going to show you how to move around here and some of the things that we can do. Now, part of the keyboard options that we changed is I can hold the Alt key down, left click, and it will actually let me scroll around this image. Now you'll notice that it's gone off the screen. If I want to get it back on the screen, there's 4 keys. We've got Control 2, which will move me up. Control 8 will move me back down. Control 4 moves me to the right, and Control 6 moves me to the left. So those are just some keys to learn and remember to kind of scroll around. I think that there's also a way to get this thing to allow me to scroll to move around without having to do the function keys or the shift keys, but I haven't figured out how to do it on the Mac yet. So you'll notice here when I hold the Alt key down, I'm in a three-dimensional world, and I'm actually able to look at a number of different things, a number of different angles. Now, to get this thing in a square format, in other words, I want to look at it straight up and down, I can hit the number 7, and that'll give me a perspective of up and down. I'm basically looking at it from a top view. The mouse scroll wheel will actually zoom in and out on the thing. These are light sources. You can put as many different light sources in here as you want. And to select one of these things, if we hold the Control key and right click, it'll actually select whatever it is that you're looking at. So if I want to select the L, I can select the L. Now, once you get that selected and you want to actually move it around, so let's say I zoom in on this, I'm going to hit the Shift F, I don't remember which ones are which. Get down here. Well, it's not actually moving at the moment, but the thing is once we get to the point where we've selected something, you'll notice down here that we have this little 3 axis thing here for our X, Y, and Z axis, and then we've got an arrow and a circle here, and then you've also got this guy. This first guy with the arrow, depending on the angle that we're looking at it, so I'll kind of move it over here, you can see here that you have a red, green, and a blue arrow. So the blue moves you in the Z depth, Y, and X. So if you want to move them, you just click the arrow and you can drag the thing and put it wherever you want. Control Z will actually undo it just like any other program. So I can move it up and down in any direction. The other thing that I can do is I can hit the little curve that's down here, and that'll actually turn this thing into a rotation device. So if I want to rotate around X, I can use that arrow. If I want to go around the Z axis, so it allows me to be able to rotate the thing pretty much any way that I want to do it. So those are the manipulation ways, or the ways to manipulate the image. So again, I'm holding the shift key down to move this. Now you'll notice this over here is actually our camera. I haven't gotten completely familiar with how to set the camera, so it took me probably longer to get the camera oriented where I wanted it, so that I could, and if I hit the 0 key, it'll actually show you what the camera is looking at. So once and just to kind of show you the options on the camera, once you select something, and it really doesn't matter if I'm selecting the L or if I'm selecting the camera. So if we go back to F7 view and I hit control right click on the camera, now the camera is selected. So if we go back to the camera view, now over here on the right, this is our render options, and you'll see where that comes into play here in a minute. But I want to come over here to the camera, and you'll notice that we have a lot of different settings in here that we can set for the particular camera. The focal length is one thing, so I can set how much I'm zoomed in and out on the particular image. We've got our let's see, let me get this up a little bit. We've got our shift and cropping. This just gives me the ability to move the camera to the left and right to orient it the way I want it. We can set the type of camera that we're taking the picture with, the size of the sensor. You can play around with this stuff. It's not really any of it's rocket science. You do want to leave it on perspective view. The orthographic view kind of distorts the image a little bit, so perspective is a little bit better and more what your eyeball sees. So once we get that done, again, I can hit F7, get back over here. All I did to create this image is I laid some text objects. So if I hit Shift A, it'll bring up our menu, and I just told it to enter a text object. Now by default, it puts it on here and it already has the word text in it. So if I hit the Tab key, back up, and say I want another L, I hit L, I hit the Tab key again to get out of there. But you'll notice here, if I scroll around, that the L is perfectly flat. It has no depth. So what we want to do, and I'll kind of keep it at this angle here, zoom up a little bit so we can see it. What I want to do is I want to show you how to extrude this. So to do that, we're going to come up here to our options, our properties window, and we're going to select text, which is the big F. And then down here we want to extrude it. So you can click in this and it'll give you the option to type in 0.1, and now you see we actually have a depth. You can also use the slider to slide back and forth, but it's pretty sensitive. Or you can use these little arrows to move up and down, but they take forever, so I would suggest just clicking in there and hitting Tab. Now you'll notice if I zoom up on this thing a little bit, if we can get this to, I don't know why my movement, let's see if we turn this off, if it'll let me. I don't know why it's not letting me move, but anyway, I'll figure that out. So what I wanted to kind of point out is you'll notice the edges of this thing are really sharp. So we want to add some depth to those. So what we're going to do is we're just going to come in here. We've got a bevel. We're going to add a bevel to the text, so you can see that it's adding a smooth angle, a curve to the edge. We can just pick whatever we want. And then you'll also notice that the edges are a little bit tight even after the bevel comes in. So by adding a resolution on it, you see that it's actually getting more and more clear. It's smoother. I found 8 works pretty good. Depending on the speed of your computer, these things may take a little bit longer to render. So this is all that there is to get in the letter. That's all I did to make these letters. Now I want to rotate this letter, so I'm going to come down here and we're going to select our icon. I'm going to tell it to do the line, and well, actually I'm sorry, I want to rotate it first. We're going to rotate it around the x-axis, so I'm just going to grab this red here and turn it up to where we want it. If I want to move it a little bit around the Z, so you can orient the thing any way you want using the arrows there. If you want to move it, you can hit the other arrow here, and now we can move it in the Z. We can move it up and down, so we can put it wherever we want. And again, if I hold I'll zoom out just a little bit. If I hold the Alt key down, left click, and then I can kind of see what plane it's on compared to the other letters. So you can kind of see that these letters are stacked up on top of each other when you're looking at it here. But if we go back to the camera view by hitting 0, it kind of gives you the illusion that they're all kind of sitting up on top of each other and leaning on each other. And you can do a better job than I did. I'm just kind of screwing around here to see what I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this particular object. So to do that, I select the object. I come down here to Object and tell it to delete, or you can hit the delete key, and then you have to click delete to get it to go away. The light sources, you can put as many different light sources on here as you want. You can change how far away they are from the rest of the blocks. So if I go back to F7 here and we zoom out, you can see in this particular instance I've got 3 light sources, and we've got our camera here. So if we were interested in knowing where this thing is being lit from, holding our Alt key down and scrolling around shows you that these 2 light sources are up here on top and to the front. This one is lighting it from the back and the bottom. So if I kind of turn it around here, you can kind of see that some of this one is lighting it from the back. This one's coming from the front. And again, you can kind of scroll it all the way around here and kind of get a good idea of where those light sources are with respect to the camera. You can create as many different light sources as you want. In order to do the light source, if we select one of these, I'm going to hit Control right click. Over here on the right, we have a light source, and these things change depending on what you have selected. But now we have a light source. I have it set as the sun. We can set an energy level, which is how bright the thing is. Set atmosphere, clouds, whatever you want to do. A lot of different options here to kind of play around with the type of light that you're going to end up with. So now I've showed you how to put the text on there. I've showed you how to extrude it and how to get it set up. Let's throw another text element on here real quick. I'll throw it over here. I just want to show you one other piece here that I forgot to show you. In fact, I'll just leave that thing set to text, and let's go over here and extrude it. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to type 0.1, and then I'm going to click here and we'll just type in 0.038 on that, a resolution of 8. And so now if I scroll around here, you can see that it actually has some depth to it and has a nice look. So what I want to do is I want to show you how to put a texture on it. To do that, while I have the text selected, I'm going to come up here to the texture or the material icon, or we can just come over here to the textures. You can set both, one or the other. I'm going to set this particular one first. I'm going to tell it to add a new one. You'll notice this little icon here. If we do not select this, you end up with a weird looking result. So make sure that you have this guy selected, which lets you set a lot of different options. If I want to change the color, I just select here, pick the color that I want. You get a fairly good, this is a kind of a quick render that you get here, but the final render will actually look a lot better when you actually render it out. If you wanted to add material or a texture to it, you can come over here and add a new texture. This lets you get in here and do quite a few different things to the thing to change the texture. I don't think that the texture actually shows up here. If I render this thing out, and in order to render it, I'm going to have to actually move this into the view of the camera. So let's do this. Let's pick this up and I'll move it up here so it's on top of the other text. Let's hit 0 and make sure that it's in the camera view, and it's not. So let's grab it and move it into the camera view. And we'll probably want to pull it over here so that we can see it. So now we have it in the camera view. So to render this, we're just going to come up here and click render image. And so that gives you the look of what the thing is going to look like, and you can see that it actually has a texture based on what I've done down here. If I don't want the texture on here, and here's another thing. You'll notice that we're in a render form, and we can't do our scrolling around and looking at the image. I want to go back to that 3D view. This window, when I hit render, has been changed to the render view. If I come down here to this guy and tell it to go back to the 3D view, it'll take us back to the way we were earlier. So it's, gives you a pretty easy way to move around, but you do have to kind of understand what you're looking at there. So if we want to get rid of this texture, we can just come over here. Let's see, where's the get rid of this. There is at least there used to be, there was a icon here. Here we go. Actually, I am not seeing how to get rid of the here it is. So right here where it says texture 1, if you want to delete the texture off of the thing, you just hit the X. And so now if I come back up here and render it again, well, evidently hold on, because we need to figure this out. If we come back over here, we don't have a texture. We have a blue background, and I don't think I picked anything else down here. So why? I wonder if the text object that popped in there has got something else funky going on. Back over here. We didn't change any of that. I'm not real sure why I have the highlighting around the edges of the text, unless we accidentally did that over here in the text thing. Resolution, left, bold. Anyway, this is where you would actually go to set that stuff. I don't want to spend all day trying to figure out why that thing's got a edge around it, but I'm sure I accidentally clicked something here. So now I'm going to go ahead and we're going to delete that object off again. So in fact, this time we'll just hit the delete key, and I guess, yeah, it's actually the function delete on my MacBook. So now what we have is we've gotten the camera, we got our image. So if I come up here to render, it shows me what everything's going to look like. So this is exactly what I want it to look like. In fact, this is the final product that we used on the website at the moment. So what I want to do now is I want to save this out as a PNG file. So first I'm going to come back over here, because I don't, well actually right here you can get to the render settings from while you're in the render mode, so it's okay. But when you click on render, we're going to render it out as an image. You can also do animation. And then you'll notice down here at the bottom we've got PNG selected, RGB colors, our compression, whether we want to overwrite the file if it's already there, whether we want to use file extensions. You can click this icon and actually pick a folder. I've already picked it. For some reason it shows / after you choose it. I'm not quite sure why, but it does save it where it's supposed to. And then you've got some other stuff in here for post-processing and performance and shading, and you can play around with that stuff. I left all this set to default. Once you get this set, you've basically told it how you want to render the image out. And so to actually get this image rendered out, we're going to hit the F3 key, and this is why we had to turn off the function keys so that they work normally. So we hit F3. You'll notice here that it's got the path that I had chosen. It's got the name of the file that I'd entered in earlier, and then you've got a save as image button up here at the top right. So all you do is save it out, and that fast it's done. If we go back over here to the Explorer, the Finder, you can see right here is the actual image. This is a copy of an earlier version that I had. I kind of shifted the C around a little bit and moved the CRM so it was a little bit square. So now all you've got to do is open it up in Photoshop, cut out the background, and use it wherever you want to use it. It turns out pretty slick. So that's pretty much the basics of using Blender.